Okay, well, hopefully you guys have got a chance to draw a picture and you maybe have come out with something similar to what I have written right here. And it's basically, if we look at this, we have, if looking at the back of the problem, you have a vertical mesa. So this kind of rectangle right here on the right, that's my vertical mesa, okay? And a right triangle, obviously. And we've got this ground level that's coming up towards it. There's 2 points on it, A and B, and since it says B is 111 feet closer, then obviously the A has to be to the left of it. And with this 111, it's not the whole distance along the bottom of that, it's only just the distance from A to B. And then it gives us 2 angles of elevation. So we're looking at point A, we're looking up to the top of the cliff. So always with respect to the horizontal, we look up to create an angle of 32 degrees and 40 minutes. And then the second time, we're looking from the horizontal looking up to create an angle of 46 degrees and 30 minutes. And the very end, they just want us to find that very height of that mesa. Okay? Well, if we look in here, we basically have some right triangles. We've got 2 right triangles going on. We've got a smaller one that's just right here, where if we can make, obviously we have our hypotenuse sitting right there. We have a side over here that's x, and we have a side down here, maybe we'll call that one y. Okay? So if I use my rules of SOHCAHTOA, and I want to figure out, just write an equation for this that I can possibly use hopefully here in a second, then we know that since I'm not really having to find our hypotenuse, tangent's the only one that doesn't have anything to do with hypotenuse. So we can say the tangent of that angle, which was 46 degrees and 30 minutes, is going to equal the side opposite of that angle, which was x, over the side adjacent, which was y. Okay, so that uses one of those triangles. But we also have a second triangle that's going to use the other angle, which is much bigger. Okay, the other triangle is all of this right here, because I still want to use the height of that mesa, and I still want to use this whole 90-degree portion. Okay, so that one says, and we're going to go tangent again, remember, because we don't need this hypotenuse. So tangent of 32 degrees and 40 minutes is going to be the side opposite that angle, so the side way over there, which is x, over the side adjacent. Now, what's adjacent is not 111. It's got to be adjacent of that whole bottom right here, because that's the bottom of that right triangle. So it's 111 plus y. Okay. So what we basically are looking at is, in that first equation, the one in purple, we have 2 unknowns. We have x and y. In the second equation, we also have 2 unknowns, x and y. Well, if you go back into your days of algebra, you'll know that the only way I can solve for an equation that has 2 unknowns is to have 2 equations. If I had 3 variables like x, y, and z, I would need 3 equations. So we have 2 variables, we needed 2 equations. So and the rules were you were either going to use the substitution method, an elimination method, or like matrices. Okay, let's try the substitution method. So what that means is I need to take one of the equations and plug it into the other equation. Well, my overall goal is to solve for x, the height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first equation right here, and I'm going to solve it for y, because when I can get at y by itself, then I can plug it into the other one. So since I'm wanting to solve for y, and the y is in the denominator, let's swap these like we've been doing in the past. So it says then basically y is equal to x over the tangent of 46 degrees and 30 minutes. Okay. So now this is saying y, all of y is the exact same thing as this fraction. So what I can do is now take this value for y, and plug it in right here. So let's do that, and let's write what's left over. So if I try that, you'll get the tangent of 32 degrees and 40 minutes to equal x divided by 111 plus, now instead of y, I'm going to write what y equals, which is x over the tangent of 46 degrees and 30 minutes. Okay, so it's like, this is really, really gross. Yes, I agree. But if we look at this now, this equation right here, which is the blend of the 2 above, the only variable we have left in here is just x. And if we can solve for x, there's our answer. Okay, now the hard part, obviously, is going to be solving for x. Okay. Well, here's my hint. Let's try some little substitution. Let's say everywhere I see the tangent of 32 degrees and 40 minutes, let's write an A for it. And everywhere I see the tangent of 4630, let's write a B for it. So in other words, instead of tangent of 3240, I'm going to have A equals x over 111 plus x over, and then tangent 4630, I'll do B. And it just makes it a little bit easier as far as, I guess if you want to, as far as trying to solve this out using just basic algebra. So then what's the next step? Well, let's try to get rid of the fraction on the right side. So if I multiply both sides by 111 plus x over b, so over here on this side, I'm going to do 111 plus x over b. Then what that's going to do is take all that away. Okay, so I have a times 111 plus x over b equals just x. So all that's gone away. So let me come up over here. If we distribute a little bit, it's a over here, so we can lead with our number part. I'll write 111. So 111a plus ax over b is equal to x. Okay. Now, where are we headed with this again? What is our whole goal? Remember, we're trying to get x by itself. So what I want to do is get the two x terms on the same side. So let's move that x over, and then since this has nothing to do with x, let's move that one that way. So I have ax over b minus x is equal to a negative 111a. Okay? And all that's doing right there is just focusing on just getting the x's by himself. Because now that I have x's in two terms, can I factor it off? So if I factor off the x's, I'll get a over b minus 1, double check, x, multiply it back in, you'll get ax over b minus x is equal to negative 111a. Okay, let me scroll down just for a second so I can show you this. All of this that's in here in the parentheses, those are just going to be numbers. Because remember, a is just the tangent of 3240, which I can plug in my calculator and get a number. And same thing with b. So all this is just a number that's attached to x. So anytime you want to get a number off of your variable, remember you just divide it off. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so overall then what we have is x is equal to a negative 111a divided by a over b minus 1. Okay, so what I want to do, since I got x by itself here, is let's now put back in what a and b were. So it's negative 111 times the tangent of 32 degrees and 40 minutes all over, then a over b, so the tangent of 32 degrees 40 minutes over the tangent of 46 degrees 30 minutes minus 1. Okay, what I suggest when you put this in your calculator is obviously put all this denominator in parentheses. And I don't know if any of you guys are tempted whatsoever. I'm just going to say it. You can never, right here, since these are both tangent and tangent, you can't just mark off tangent. You actually have to type in your calculator the tangent of those numbers. Okay, it's like if you had the square root of 5 over the square root of 3, and you're like, oh, I can just divide off the square root signs and get 5/3. No. Don't be tempted to do that if you ever are. You've gotten this far, so definitely use your calculator and you can't divide off the trig words, in other words. Okay. All right, so let's type this in our calculators real quick. And when I do so, what I come out to be is x to be 181.8 feet. And I'm rounding to 4 significant digits since my angles up there had both 4 numbers in it. But if you wanted to, if you wrote that as 182 feet, that is totally okay. So there's the height of the mesa. And if you didn't get that, I mean, one thing, is it realistic? I would assume so. If it was thousands of feet, I would have issues with it. If it was only 20 feet, I'd probably still have issues with it. So this definitely looked very realistic. So I would just go back and get practice typing it in. If nothing else, if you want to put your top all in one parentheses and then divide it by the bottom all in one parentheses, you might have to do that. But when in doubt, just do be parentheses happy, and you can go about it that way. All right, now, and in case you're concerned, this, yes, is a very hard problem. This is, in fact, one of the hardest problems we have. I would highly, highly suggest recommending going back and trying this problem on your own one more time. Okay, so going back, watching it one more time, or if nothing else, starting from scratch and seeing if you can do the algebra through it. It's not hard to set it up. That wasn't the hard part. The hard part was the algebra, but isn't it always the algebra that's the hard part? Yeah. So, but definitely a great problem to get work with for sure.